The crowd was silent. All eyes were on Thera, a tall, broad-shouldered female with deep violet skin and glowing silver eyes. She stood in the center of the reproduction circle, surrounded by the elders of her species, the Zarians. Her chest rose and fell slowly. She was nervous but calm. She had waited for this day her whole life, but now their faces were filled with doubt and disgust. "She's too big," one elder whispered. "She will break any child she tries to carry," said another. "But she is strong," a younger voice argued. "She has never been sick, never failed a test." "That is exactly the problem," Elder Varn growled. "She is unnatural." Thera clenched her fists. She had trained harder than any female. She had eaten the special roots, passed every medical scan. She had done everything right, but it didn't matter. The High Elder stood. "Thera, daughter of Vorka, you are found unfit for reproduction. Your body is too large. You do not match the sacred form. You will not carry life. You will bring imbalance. You are banished." A cold silence fell again. Thera didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just turned and walked away. Outside the city walls, the land was dead and cold. They called it the empty waste, a place where no crops grew, where no Zarian wanted to live. Only the banished came here. And they didn't live long. Thera built a shelter from broken stones and old metal scraps. She hunted small beasts and boiled them over fire. At night, she sat alone, looking at the stars. She had never broken a rule. She had never hurt anyone. But now no one would speak her name. Not even her own mother. Still, she survived. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. She stopped thinking about her people. She stopped dreaming of being a mother. But one night, everything changed. A loud sound ripped through the sky. Boom! Thera jumped up. A bright red light burned across the darkness. A ship was falling from the sky. It roared past her mountainside and crashed in the valley below. Thera didn't move at first. She had seen machines fall before, usually old drones or scrap metal. But this was different. The fire was huge. The smoke was black. She grabbed her long spear and began to walk toward the crash. It was a long way down. But Thera moved fast. Her strong legs carried her over rocks and ash. When she reached the crash site, her eyes widened. This was no Zarian ship. It was small, sleek, covered in strange writing. Its silver walls were twisted from the fall, but the ship still hummed. With faint energy. She stepped closer. Inside the broken cockpit, something moved. It was not a Zaryan. It was something else. It was a human. Thera had only heard stories about them. Fragile, soft-skinned, weak, not fit for Zarian worlds. But this one was alive. He was bleeding from his head, one eye half closed. He groaned and tried to lift his hand but failed. She stood over him, watching. He looked up at her. His eyes went wide. Thera knew what he was seeing. A giant female towering above him, holding a spear. Her body casting a huge shadow in the firelight. Tried to speak but choked. He's scared, she thought. Good. But something about his face made her stop. He was scared, but not hateful. He didn't curse her. He didn't scream. He was just afraid and hurt. Her grip on the spear loosened. She sighed. Then, without saying a word, she reached into the cockpit, grabbed him carefully, and lifted him into her arms. Back in her shelter, Thera cleaned his wounds with warm water and soft leaves. She wrapped his arm with cloth and gave him a few sips of melted snow. He slept for hours. Thera sat by the fire, watching him. This was the first time she had seen another living being up close in months. He looked so small, so weak, and yet something deep in her chest stirred. She didn't know why she helped him. She just did. Maybe because she knew what it felt like to be thrown away. In the morning, the human opened his eyes. Thera was sitting by the door, watching the sky. He looked around in confusion. Then, finally, he spoke in a slow, tired voice. "You saved me?" Thera turned to look at him. She said nothing, but her eyes softened, and for the first time in many months, she did not feel alone. He woke up to the sound of breathing, not his own. Someone else was there, watching, waiting. Eli opened his eyes. Slowly, his head hurt, his side burned, and everything around him was dim, lit only by a soft orange fire. The air smelled of ash, earth, and something sweet like crushed flowers. He tried to move, but pain shot through his ribs. He groaned. Something shifted in the shadows. That's when he saw her. Not a human, not even close. She was sitting, cross-legged, near the fire, silent, still. Her skin was violet. Her silver eyes glowed softly in the dark. She looked like a statue, giant and calm, but her presence felt like thunder. Like if she stood, the ground might shake. His voice came out weak. "What are you?" The woman said nothing, but her eyes, they were not cold, not cruel. She tilted her head slightly, then finally spoke. "I could ask you the same." Her voice was deep, not harsh, but heavy, like it carried weight from years of silence. She stood and walked toward him. Every step made the old floor creak. Eli flinched. He wasn't sure if she would crush him or help him. She knelt beside him. "I pulled you from your ship," she said. "You were dying." He swallowed hard. "You saved me?" She nodded once, then stood again. "Why?" he asked. She paused, turned her head away. "Because I know what it feels like to be left behind." Thera didn't tell him her name. Yet, she didn't say anything more. She moved around the shelter, checking a pot of boiling roots, sharpening her spear, then stepping out into the cold air without a sound. Eli lay there, confused. Who was she? What was she? And why was she living alone in this desolate place? Later, she returned and gave him something to drink. Warm, thick liquid. It tasted strange but soothed his pain. He looked up at her and asked, "Are you the only one here?" She nodded. "They exiled me. Why?" She stared into the fire. "Because my body was made wrong." Eli blinked. "What do you mean?" She turned toward him slowly, her eyes glowing brighter now. "They said I was too big, too strong, too unnatural. I couldn't give birth the way others could, so they called me useless. A danger to the bloodline." Eli stared at her, stunned. "So, they just sent you away?" Thera gave a short laugh. No joy in it. Only pain. Yes, they feared what they didn't understand. "And now I am alone." There was silence for a long time. Only the fire spoke, crackling softly between them. Then Eli did something unexpected. He smiled, not in pity, but in awe. "You know," he said, "back on Earth, strength is not a curse. It's a gift." Thera looked at him with surprise. He continued, "Your size, your power, it's not wrong. Maybe your people just don't know what right looks like." That night, Eli couldn't sleep. Not because of the pain, but because of curiosity. Who was this woman who had saved him? She had been cast out by her own kind, yet risked her life to help a stranger. She was supposed to be broken. But all he saw was power, beauty, and silence full of pain. As he drifted off, he whispered, "You don't look broken to me." The next morning, Eli sat outside the shelter, wrapped in thick animal fur. The cold wind bit at his skin, but the view was endless white hills, black rocks, and skies that stretched forever. Thera was sharpening her blade. He called out, "Do you have a name?" She paused, then said softly, "Thera." He smiled. "I'm Eli." They looked at each other for a long time, and in that frozen land where nothing was supposed to grow, a strange friendship began to bloom. Thera didn't sleep at night, not because she wasn't tired, but because her dreams always brought the same memory, the sound of the elders' voices. "You are unfit. You are too large. You will never be a mother." She would. Wake up sweating, breathing heavy, her strong hands clenched into fists. The fire would still be glowing, and Eli would still be sleeping soft, peaceful, breathing like he trusted the world. She didn't understand him. How could someone be so calm after crashing into a strange planet? How could someone look at her and not be afraid? That morning, Thera was outside chopping ice blocks to melt for water. She didn't notice Eli walk up behind her until he spoke. "You dream loud." She froze. "Sorry," he added, wrapping the fur cloak tighter around his body. "Didn't mean to spy." Thera didn't answer. He stepped closer, limping slightly. "You keep saying you were cast out, but you never told me why it still hurts." She stayed silent. "I mean, if your people were so blind, why care what they thought?" Thera turned slowly, and this time she looked him straight in the eyes. "Because I believed them." Ailey was quiet now. Thera dropped the axe. "When I was a child, I wanted to be a mother more than anything," she said. "But when my body kept growing, faster, stronger than others, they began to whisper." She sat on a rock, voice cold and hollow. "By the time I was of age, no male would even look at me. They said I'd crush a child just by holding it, that I was more beast than female." She touched her chest, but inside I still felt soft. I still wanted love. I still wanted to carry life. Her voice cracked, but they made me believe that I wasn't made for love. Eli sat down beside her. His hands were rough but warm. He placed one on her arm. She didn't move away. "You're not broken, Thera," he said. "You're different, and sometimes different is just the next step in evolution." She frowned. Big words for someone who almost died falling from the sky. He laughed softly. "Yeah, well, I fall with style." That made her smirk for the first time. Later, inside the shelter, Eli turned serious again. He pulled a small round device from the pouch on his belt. Thera looked at it with caution. "What is that?" "Something Earth scientists use to scan biology," Eli said. "It reads energy, organs, DNA patterns. I used it to scan myself." "And then you," her body tensed. "You scanned me?" He nodded. "Don't worry. I didn't touch you without permission. It reads from a distance." He pressed a button. A tiny hologram glowed between them, Thera's body, but simplified, like a wireframe. "I found something strange." Eli pointed to glowing lines around her abdomen. "Your body isn't broken. It's complex, stronger. Your bones are thicker, yes, but your inner organs are soft, flexible. Your womb is twice the size of any Zarian female's, and protected like a tank." Thera stared. "You mean I can bear children?" "Not just bear," Eli said. "You could carry multiple safely, and survive what others couldn't. You're not a failure, Thera. You're an upgrade." For a long time she didn't speak. She just stared at the glowing image. Then she whispered, "They never scanned me. They just looked at me and judged." Eli nodded. "They were afraid of what they couldn't understand." She looked at him. Her silver eyes shimmered. "And you're not afraid?" He smiled gently. "No, I see something they never did." She raised an eyebrow. "What?" Eli leaned in slightly. "I see the future." Asterisk. It started with a heartbeat. But not hers. Thera sat alone at the edge of the cliff, her eyes on the endless sky. The wind howled around her, pulling her long braids back, but her body stayed still, stone-like. She pressed a hand to her stomach. She had felt it again. A flutter, a soft thump inside her that didn't belong to pain or hunger. It was something alive. She didn't tell Eli right away. Instead, she watched him work inside the shelter, building strange tools from the wreckage of his ship. His hands moved fast, his face focused, but his eyes kept stealing glances at her. He knew something was changing in her, and he was right. That evening, as the fire burned low, Eli looked up. "You've been quiet," Thera nodded. "A storm is coming." He blinked. "You mean the weather?" No. She met his eyes. Something else. I can feel it in my bones. Eli walked over and sat beside her. His body was still healing, but he didn't show pain. Only curiosity. Can I show you something? He asked. She gave a slow nod. He pulled a new device from his pouch made of wires, glass, and a power cell he'd salvaged from his ship. He placed it gently against her arm. It glowed. Her body lit up again in hologram form. But this time, it showed something different. There was a second glow inside her lower body. Tiny, faint, but real. Thera's heart skipped. What is that? She whispered, even though she already knew. Eli didn't answer right away. He was staring at the image, his mouth slightly open. Then he looked at her, voice soft. It's life. Silence fell between them. Thera stared at the tiny pulse in the light. Her hands trembled. But how? She asked. We didn't. Eli raised a hand. No, we didn't. This isn't. From that. This is your body waking up. Your system's shifting, evolving. He pointed to the screen again. I think your body was always capable. It just needed time, safety, a signal. A signal? She echoed, like hope, he said. Or maybe, purpose. Thera looked at the fire, her thoughts racing. For so long, she believed she was empty, defective, useless. Now, something inside her had changed, not because of medicine, not because of machines, but because of kindness and connection. Eli stood up and walked toward the cave wall. He touched the smooth rock where the firelight danced. I've seen many things across the stars, he said, but I've never seen someone misjudged so badly. He turned back to her. You weren't born wrong, Thera. You were born ahead. Before she could answer, a loud beep came from one of Eli's machines. His smile faded. He rushed over and tapped the screen. His eyes narrowed. What is it? Thera asked. He frowned. Motion sensors I planted near the outer cliffs. They're picking up something big. Her body went tense. Zaryans? Had they found her? Or worse, were they hunting her? They moved fast. Eli grabbed what he could: tools, food, data drives. Thera broke down her shelter with a few strong swings of her arms. She had built it from ruin, and now it would return to dust. They headed toward the far side of the Wastland. Beyond the cliffs lay something only few knew, an old forgotten valley covered by ancient clouds. It was a place no Zaryan dared to go, full of wild storms, broken machines from long-lost wars. But Thera had heard stories. The valley had life, heat, shelter, and maybe safety. As they climbed over jagged rocks under the night sky, Eli looked back at her. You okay? Thera didn't answer right away. She looked at the sky again, at the stars, at the freedom, and at the small thump. She now felt again inside her. I'm more than okay, she said at last. I think I'm finally alive. The first sign was the silence. No wind, no howling beasts, not even the whisper of snow drifting down the cliffs. It was the kind of silence that only came before something terrible. Thera froze on the ridge. She raised one hand, signaling Eli to stop behind her. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the far horizon. And then she saw it, a flicker of silver light in the distance, small, but moving fast, too fast to be wildlife, too clean to be natural. Zaryan machines. Eli stepped up beside her, breathing hard from the climb. What is it? He whispered. Drones, Thera said. Her voice was flat. Scouts, hunters. His face tensed. They found us. No, she replied. They're searching, but they're close. Too close. She looked around them. Rocky paths, no cover, no shelter. They were still a half-day's walk from the hidden valley. And the drones were coming fast. Thera grabbed Eli's hand. We move, now. They ran. She didn't look back. The machines chased them without sound, silent death flying through the icy sky. They were black and sharp, with red eyes that scanned heat and movement. Designed for tracking outcasts. Designed to eliminate them. Thera had seen what they did to others. She had smelled the burned flesh dot as they crossed a narrow ice bridge. One of the drones finally spotted them. A loud mechanical screech echoed behind. THEMBZZZZZT. A plasma shot hit the ice just inches from Eli's feet. He tripped, falling forward. His face scraped the frozen stone. Eli! Thera shouted. The drone charged its next shot. She didn't think. She roared and threw her spear with all her strength. The weapon sliced through the air like lightning. Crack! The drone shattered mid-flight, spinning into a wall of rock and a burst of sparks. Eli groaned, trying to stand, but Thera was already lifting him with one arm. "You're hurt," she said. He wiped blood from his mouth. "I've been worse." She smirked. Liar. They kept moving. Each step was harder than the last. But the valley was close. Now Thera could feel it. She remembered the stories. An ancient land built by a forgotten race. Hidden by weather. Left alone by the Zarians because they feared the broken machines inside. But she wasn't afraid. She was done being afraid. As the sky darkened and the air thickened with smoke and frost, they finally reached it. The cliffs dropped into a wide basin, green, steaming and alive. It looked like a dream. Eli's jaw dropped. This place. Thera stepped forward. It's real. They moved quickly down into the valley, into the trees, into the safety of vines and old metal towers. For now. They were hidden. That night, Eli sat near the strange glowing plants while Thera built a fire from broken circuits and dry moss. His voice was quiet. "They really want you dead, don't they?" Thera didn't answer right away. Then she said, "They want silence. They want to erase what doesn't fit. I didn't fit." He looked at her face, strong, sharp, but tired. "You do now," he whispered, "with me." She met his gaze. And for the first time since the chase began. She smiled. Later that night, while Eli slept, Thera stood watch. Her ears stayed sharp, listening for any drone. Any Zarian soldier. Any machine still looking to erase her. But nothing came. Only wind. Only warmth. And the soft thump inside her body. The life growing inside her. A life she would protect with everything she had. Because now she had something the Zarians could never take away: a future. Asterisk. The valley was nothing like the world she had known. There was no judgment here. No elders. No whispers. No exile. Only warm air, soft ground, and strange glowing plants that lit up when you touched them, like they were happy someone finally walked among them again. Thera stood barefoot in the soft grass, her eyes closed, her arms open. She had never felt something so simple. Peace. Eli watched her from a distance. She looked different here, less like an outcast, more like a queen. He smiled to himself and turned back to his work. He had set up a tiny lab inside the remains of a collapsed tower, an old alien structure, half swallowed by vines and time. He powered up a scanner using leftover ship cells and began uploading the data he had saved on Thera's biology. But every few minutes, his eyes returned to her. To the woman who had carried him through snow and now stood under a sun that no one else dared to find. That night, they sat together near a fire surrounded by blue moss. Eli handed her a strange fruit from one of the trees. Thera bit into it and raised her brow. "Sweet." "Yeah," he smiled. "Earth doesn't have anything like that. But I'm not complaining." She chewed slowly, her silver eyes locked on the fire. Then, in a quiet voice, she asked, "Do you think this place was built by a people like me? Too different? Too strange to fit anywhere else?" Eli looked around. "I think this place was built for people like us." Later, when the stars came out, Thera lay on her back and stared at them in silence. Something shifted inside her again. Not pain. Not fear. Just warmth. She placed her hand on her stomach. The flutter was stronger now. Not just a heartbeat. Not just movement, a presence. She felt a dot, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel empty. She turned to Eli, who had drifted off beside her, tools still in his lap. She smiled softly. "You didn't just save me," she whispered. "You woke something inside me." The next morning, Thera found Eli already awake, studying data on a glowing screen. He looked up and said, "I think your body is entering a new phase, something I've never seen before." Thera sat beside him. "What kind of phase?" "Your cells are building something, preparing, like they've received a signal from deep inside, a biological green light." He looked at her. "This place, this piece, maybe even us." Thera's eyes widened. "You think the child is already forming?" He nodded. "Your body wasn't broken, it was waiting." Thera didn't speak for a long time. Then she said something soft, something she had never said before. "I want to raise it here, not in the cold, not in fear, but here, where no one can take it away." Eli nodded. "Then we'll build something together." She smiled, not the kind of smile that fades, the kind that grows. For the next few days they worked. Side by side, they cleared out the old tower, planted food, gathered water from the steam pools. They laughed. They argued. They shared food and stories and silence. And each night, the spark inside Thera grew stronger. She didn't need the elders. She didn't need permission. She didn't need to prove her worth, because she was already something powerful. She was becoming a mother. The first cry echoed through the valley like a song no one had heard in 1,000 years. Soft, new, alive. Thira held the tiny child in her strong arms, her large body wrapped around it protectively. Her silver eyes were wet not from pain, but from something she never thought she'd feel again. Joy. Eli stood beside her, stunned. The child was breathing, moving. Tiny fingers reached out toward him, a hand barely the size of a pebble. Thera looked up at him, her voice hoarse but proud. "She's real." Eli could barely speak. "She's beautiful." The child wasn't fully Zarian, and not fully human. She was something new. Her skin was soft lavender. Her eyes shimmered gold and silver when the firelight hit them. Her heartbeat was steady and strong like her mother's. And in that moment, Thera wasn't an outcast. She was a creator, a beginning. Days passed. The valley became quiet again, but this time, with warmth, not fear. The child slept peacefully under a woven blanket of soft leaves. Thera sat close, humming a low song, one she remembered from her childhood, though no one had ever sung it to her. Eli watched them from the doorway of their shelter. "She never know what it means to be thrown away," he said. "No," Thera whispered. "She only know what it means to be wanted." But peace never lasts forever. One morning, Eli's scanner lit up red. Zarian signal, weak, but nearby. A small transport ship had entered the lower skies, searching, watching. The signal stayed for just 2 minutes, then vanished. Thera stood still, her eyes on the clouds above. "They know," she said quietly. "They know I survived." Eli walked up beside her. "They might come." "I hope they do," Thera replied. He looked at her in surprise. She didn't look angry. She looked ready. Strong. Not to fight, but to stand. To show them what they couldn't destroy. Later, she sat with her daughter in her arms. She looked into her child's eyes and spoke softly. "They said I couldn't carry life, that I was too big, too wrong, that I was nothing." She leaned closer. "But now you're here. You proved them wrong just by breathing." The baby blinked up at her, cooing softly. "You are the first," Thera whispered. "The first of your kind." Eli stood behind her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "So what now?" Thera looked to the sky, then at her daughter, then at the quiet green valley that had become their home. "Now," she said, "we raise her. We teach her the truth. We show her what love looks like." Eli smiled. And when the world comes? Thera's voice turned calm and deep. Then we show them what strength really is. Thera, the one they threw away, had become something no Zarian elder could ever erase. Not a mistake, not a threat, but a mother, protector of a future they couldn't control. And in the warmth of a hidden valley, far from judgment and fear, a new story began.